Alright guys, welcome back. So after doing the chicken, we are going to move on to the plate that I showed at the end of the fabrication of the chicken video. So here's a meat for that. We need a whole chicken, which we butchered last week, like I said. Tomato for Aloo Bhaja, egg, half onion, some dry fruits, breadcrumbs, toasted bread for breadcrumbs. I use pumpernickel, but you can use any bread that you have in house. Butter chicken spice mix. It's basically chicken tikka masala spice mix, but there's just few spices that are not added into it. That's the only difference. Like nutmeg, you can skip nutmeg in the spice mix. You need dry fruits, cashews. You can use almonds, raisins, tomato puree, butter, clarified butter, ginger garlic paste, a little bit of sugar, recipes, and then we move on to the tools that we need. You need a cast iron pan, a blender, and a grinder. So to make your stuffing, basically get your toasted breadcrumbs, your cashews and raisins into a grinder and grind it. To make a roulade, I would suggest you keep your stuffing a little bit more moist so that it can come together, hence I'm grinding it. Otherwise you can just chop it if you're just stuffing some regular chicken or turkey. So you'll see what I mean, how I want it to come together. It just makes it easier to make a roulade. The more crumbly your stuffing is, the harder it will be to roll it. So you basically want it to be moist, but do not use water to make it moist, because the water will evaporate in the heat, and when that happens it will get soggier and it would just fall out of your roulade. You need that little bit of binding agent. In this case, it's the raisin that's acting as one. So it should start to come together like a dough. There you see it. That's what I mean. Again, the color is a little bit darker because of the breadcrumbs we used. If you use a whiter breadcrumbs and golden raisins, the color would be completely different. But I feel like this gives it a nice contrast to the chicken, white and pinkish meat of the chicken. Anyways, so we move on to our chicken, prepping a roulade. If you haven't seen the fabrication video, check that out. So you only use a flat head on the meat mallet. So it's not trying to completely flatten it, but just kind of spread it out. The thickness, the thicker part of the thigh shouldn't be more than your nail. It should be as thick as your nail is. I'll show you in a minute what I mean. I'd like to keep the thicker side towards me. It just makes it easier to remember which is the thicker side. Sometimes you just talking to other people and you're just malleting away on chicken and you just forget. You just kind of make it into a pulp. Happened to me when we were making chicken palms. Anyways, so that's the thicker part of the chicken thigh, and then you can see it's like half the length of my finger, or as big as my nail is. So we just season the chicken meat, salt, pepper. You can use spices if you want. I prefer not to, because the sauce will give the spice to it. And then we stuff the thing. And this is what I mean when I said you want it to be a moisture and makes it easier to make a roulade. So just because you can handle it like a dough, it would just make it easier to make a roulade. You don't have to constantly trying to push the stuffing into it. I'm trying to keep the stuffing in the chicken. So start from the thicker end, go to the smaller end, and we do the opposite on the chicken skin. In the chicken skin, we roll it as if it's a croissant. We start on the smaller end and then we roll it in onto itself. So the reason we do it this way for chicken skin is because you want the whole of the chicken roulade to be covered by it, or as much as possible. And once that's done, then tie the chicken up. You can tie it any ways you want. You can do one twine, or you can do 3 different twines, and it's up to you. For the sauce, you need half onion. You're gonna dice the onion. I'm just gonna show you the technique of how to dice the onion. You can get rid of the peel, uh, the first layer of the onion. The second layer that you take off can go into the stock. I was just about to trash it, and it was like, nope, put it in the stock. And then you just dice the onion. It's better to dice the onion in one way, no matter when you dice it or for what you're dicing it. Even in the sauce like this, we're gonna puree the onion. I'm still dicing it nice, uniform cuts. It's just about practicing. So you just get into a habit, like I did with my chicken, where when I was taking the chicken bone out of the chicken thigh, I was still using the back of my knife to scrape the ligaments off it, because you subconsciously get into habit of doing it, and then your cuts are always perfect. If not perfect, they're close to perfect. Even though in this case it didn't really matter how I chopped the onions up, because we were just gonna sweat them and blend them. And not to mention, you get less waste this way. Alright, so once your onions are diced, we're gonna prep for our Aloo Bhaja. So you're gonna boil your potatoes. It doesn't have to be super soft. As soon as you have your knife poke the potatoes, your onions are kind of ready. Your knife shouldn't feel any resistance as you're trying to poke the potatoes. So anyway, just slice them up. Depends on how much you want to serve. I served about 4 on a plate, because it's an Indian dish, so Indian people feel like even numbers are better than odd numbers. So I kind of did a mix of Indian and French here. With chicken, I did three portions of roulade, or 3 cuts on a roulade, and then I gave 4 with the aloo. Anyway, just slice them and line up the best looking pieces to use for your final dish. And then the rest of them, you just line them up, just in case you lose some, you have a backup ready to kind of go to and grab from. So we move on to the candied meat. So there's few other ways of doing this. I found this was the easiest and the quickest way of doing it. You just need a little bit of egg whites. Save your egg yolks for something else. And then you're just going to grab your mint, dip it into egg whites, or you can brush the egg whites on the mint leaves and just toss them around in the sugar. Always do more than you need. If you need 3 things, make 5 things, because you never know when something might go wrong. That's all you need to do for a candied meat. And then you're going to put it on a perforated pan or on a resting rack to help the airflow around the leaf. As it dries out, it would get crunchier and basically turned into like a candied mint. So I did 3, I think I did 4 slices of candied mint. And you always want to do different sizes too. You never know how a bigger piece will look or smaller piece will look, so you can have your pick. Another thing, make sure you pasteurize your eggs. The egg yolks, you can cure your egg yolks and use that as a garnish on your soups, with your salads, with your pastas. You can see I already had 3 kind of cured a day before, and I was like, maybe I should cure this one too, but unfortunately there wasn't enough room in that bowl. So again, after you have them candied, purge into sugar, you put them on the resting egg. So we move on to stewing the chicken. Now this is where your pan needs to be really hot. My pan was way too hot at that moment. So I kind of let it cool down. So we jump cut to when it was ready. So that was kind of ready. You can see it was starting to smoke, but it wasn't like crazy smoke. And then you just sear your chicken on it. Put the skin side down and don't touch it. No, let it just kind of crisp up and cook. The roulade can basically be cooked on the stove top like this. It will take a little 5 to 10 minutes for it to be completely cooked, whereas the chicken breast will take longer. So we just sear the chicken, and then in the same pan, after we take the chicken off, put it in the oven. We throw our onions into it to make our butter chicken sauce. And again, like I always say, clean as you go. And at the end of the night, you don't have to do any cleaning. So you can see me constantly trying to scrape it off, scrape the fat off that's coming out of the pan. That's residue off the pan, I should say. Again, the patience is the key. Just wait. I was very impatient. I was tired. It was a very long day that day. And I just wanted to get this done with. And just that's how you want it to look. It's a little bit underdone, but the chicken is just for us to eat. The roulade is for the plate up. And you can see the vegetable stock sitting in the back. So I'll make a video on the vegetable stock too, but just to give you a lowdown. Just have a water sitting in the back, and any vegetables you cut, just wash them off and then just throw them in the pot. Your pot doesn't have to be on, especially in a kitchen, professional kitchen, where the stovetops are constantly on around it. It will just heat up the water, and we'll just infuse the veggies into it. But if you're doing this at home, I would suggest you boil it, not even boil, simmer it for like 20 minutes and just put your veggies in and just leave it until it comes back down to room temperature. And then your vegetable stock is ready. Anyway, after the chicken is done and it's in the oven, we throw our onions in the same pan. So we're just wetting the onions, we're not trying to caramelize them or anything. And we're trying to deglaze the pan and get all those chicken bits back into the sauce. And then you put your ginger garlic paste. Once you see your onions kind of sweated, they should still be firm when you put your ginger garlic paste in it. And then your spice mix, and then your tomato puree. The tomato puree will keep the spices from burning. You can even make a slurry with the spices and tomato puree. Now, as soon as you start smelling the spices, that's your cue to throw in your tomatoes. You see, like I said, I could smell them starting to burn, and so I used some vegetable stock to stop the spices from burning. Again, you can make a slurry with tomato juice or puree tomatoes and spices, and then use them together, and it will minimize one step. So you don't want to use a lot of tomato in the butter chicken. I mean, it's butter chicken, so you need a lot of butter in the butter chicken. Just a little bit, not too much, and hence I prefer doing a puree than actual tomatoes. Actual tomatoes will make it way more thicker. You want the sauce to be thick but buttery and silky smooth. Once that's done, you mix your half of the other spice mix left with the cream, and we put about 3 ounces of cream in there. And then we bring it to boil. You can see how quickly it actually thickens up. It's just because the pan was really hot and there wasn't a lot of cream. Once it's all done, we put everything back into the blender and we blend it with about 2 big blocks of butter, and then our sauce is ready. Always check if your blender is on the low settings before you turn it on. You don't want to splatter all the sauce in the kitchen, and it will be a mess to clean. So we blend. You can see by the sides of the sauce how thick it's getting. You'll see as soon as I drop the second butter in it, the sauce doesn't jump around as much. That means it's emulsifying with butter and it's getting thicker. Now to move on to Aloo Bhaja, pick your best pieces, toss them in salt and pepper, turmeric, chili powder, a little bit of sugar, not too much, just a little bit, oil and vinegar. Yes, it's oil and vinegar, not just oil. It just gives it extra flavor. I use white balsamic. You can use anything that you have in house. Red wine or even white vinegar goes pretty well. But I would prefer if you use something that's based off on white wine. It's just perfect blend of sweet and sourness in white wines. White wine vinegars. White wine based vinegars, I should say. So once your pan is smoking hot, you line up your aloo bhajas. So remember, the thicker you cut them, the longer that cooking time will be. Mine was probably 3/4 of an inch in thickness, so mine didn't take that long to cook. And remember, they're also boiled, so all we are trying to do is kind of give them a crust. They're ready to eat as it is. So you want them to kind of have a crust, kind of get a little bit of caramelization going on. See, I was starting to get it. Just wanted to show you the difference between all of them. And this is what they will look like after, I would say, 3 to 4 minutes. And you want to press them down onto the pan if they're not getting enough heat. Sometimes they kind of go mushy on themselves. This is very simple, but it tastes so good. Once you make this, you will always make this. It is really that good. Anyway, so here's a chicken roulade. Like I said, you can tie it up whichever way you want it, whichever is easier for you. Now I was going to show you how to do it, and then my niece was like, it will be too long a video. And I kind of agreed. It's just tying a piece of meat together. You can do it any way you want. You can even use a meat glue, which will be actually more preferred than a twine. Anyways, that is ready. We took off the extra bit of stuffing that was falling off. Try to get that chicken breast on the view as well. And there's a chicken breast. The skin kind of crumbled up, so it looks bad. But and then we plate up the chicken, and here's our final plate. Um, should really enjoy this. I hope you guys make it at home and let us know what you think. Um, I really enjoy this. I had it the day after uh, the chicken breast that we had. Uh, Came back the next day and I ate this, and it was really good. Not gonna lie. Uh, I didn't think the raisins would make that big of a difference because I usually use butter to make the stuffing, but the raisin did really make the difference. The sauce was spicy. The the stuffing in the roulade was sweet. The aloo bhaja was satisfyingly spicy. It wasn't like hot, but there was that little hit of spiciness to it, which really complemented well with coriander or cilantro. And then eating that candied mint at the end of the meal just completed the whole plate. Let's hope you guys give this a try. And next time we'll do pastry. We'll do financier biscuits. I love those things. Very easy to make. Takes 10-15 minutes to make them. 1 hour in the fridge, but they're probably the delicious biscuits you ever have. So we'll come to that next week, and I'll show you how I experiment while I'm making food. Hope we'll see you next week. Ciao.